Okay, today we're learning the Gemara about Mitzia, Daf Pei Omud Aleph Omud Beis. Similar Gemara, it's also in Masechet Nedorim. Maybe we already mentioned this Gemara before, but it has to do with our parsha, where there's more insight on this evening. So the Gemara is like this: Amar Rabbi Marav, Mai Dichsiv. Pasuk in Yirmiyah, Mi ho'ish hechochem v'yovan et zois v'asher diber pi Hashem elov v'yagido al mo ovdo ha'oretz. So basically, the Navi Yirmiyah asking, well, why we got such a destruction? Meaning, he's saying it's before the destruction. It's a nevuah. It's going to come a time. He says they're going to ask this question: al mo ovdo ha'oretz. But the Gemara says, Dovar ze amru chachamim v'lo pirshum. That's what it's spread, meaning they asked the Chachamim and asked them why there was such a destruction. They couldn't say why was such a destruction. They knew there's a destruction for the Avedas, but why such a magnitude and such a devastating destruction? Omru Nevim v'lo pirshu, because it says over there, Vasher diber pi Hashem. Pi Hashem, it's the Novi. It's he speaks Dvar Hashem. Then the Gemara over here doesn't bring this, but the Gemara in Maseches Nedorim, that's the end of Nedorim, the Gemara adds, Shalu l'malochi ashuras. They asked the Malachim why there was such a devastating destruction, and the Gemara says nobody could answer, meaning the destruction was above our understanding. That something, a Chocham, a Novi, even a Malach that could see a lot more than we could see, could not understand. And by the way, this is one of the approaches. You know, a lot of people, when they ask about the Holocaust, a lot of people are trying to answer the answers. The Friedrich Rebbe and the Rebbe, they had a similar style of answering. I don't know. I mean, if they don't know, I don't know who else would know. So the idea is, there's certain things, it's similar to what it says over here. Shalu es a chachamim, es a nevim, as the Gemara Nedorim brings, Shalus Malachi Asher. There's certain things we have to understand that we cannot understand. The minute you're trying to be over Chacham, saying you understand this, no, it's maybe something, and we have similar idea by Moshe Rabbeinu. When he saw the suffering in Mitzrayim, he says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Lama hara'osa lama zeh. So, meaning, even Moshe Rabbeinu, he was such a holy man, and he went to Shamayim, and he was the mother says Chetzi Elokim, Chetzi Adam, meaning he was godly man. He was not a regular man who could not eat 120 days. It's only a godly. Even him, with all his asagas, the one who brought us the Torah from Shamayim, he says Loma Resel. I don't understand. Meaning there is explanation, but it's above our comprehension. So that's what it says in Novi Yirmiyah. The Shalu LaChochmon, Shalu LaNevim, Shalu LaMaroch HaShoretz. No one was able to say this. It says over there, Ad shepirsha HaKadosh Baruch Hu ba'atzmai. Hashem himself have to answer it. Shneimar v'yoymar Hashem al ozvam esterosi asher nesati lefneim. Oh, so if that's so simple, because it didn't follow the ways of Torah, what you cannot comprehend, the Malachim, the Nevim, the Malach HaShoretz, the Chachamim, ozvu esterosi. As we're going to see that because of that, the Gemara says it's not literally Ozvu Esterosi. B, they still didn't understand, even with the explanation what the Gemara answered, why such a devastation. That they didn't understand, they didn't comprehend. We understand the punishment, but why such a devastation? Anyway, the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Rav Shelo birchu b'Torah tchila. They didn't make birkas Torah.
It's even less.
Oh, I think last time you asked me this. Now I know you did learn this. It still doesn't make sense, such a devastation for not make birkas. It's not even the Haraisa. The only bracha the Haraisa was birkas Hamazon. So they didn't make it. They did learn Torah mashma, but they did not do birkas Torah. For that, you're punishing them to such a severe punishment of the Haaretz, such a devastation that they cannot understand. Say, well, lo birchu b'Torah. Why? It's even look like they learn Torah, but lo birchu b'Torah. So what's so going on with it? So there's few pirushim over here, and interesting that the pirushim are exactly the opposite of each other. There's one pirush It's from my Rosh Hashiva, Rabbi Yankel Naiman, the Rosh Hashiva of Or Yisrael and Pesach Tikva, Allah Shalom. So he brings the answer of Rabbi Sol Salanter, and there is also an answer that doesn't bring over here from the Kosker Rebbe. They're exactly coming from two opposite directions. So Rabbi Sol Salanter says, in everything we have like Machshava, Dibur, and Ma'aser. The beginning, the middle, and the end. Machshava is the beginning, the middle is the Dibur, and then the Ma'aser. So by them, the learning Torah was in order to know how to do the mitzvahs. That was the learning Torah. It's like similarly the idea of Limud Torah of Noshim. Noshim P'turas Mitalmud Torah. However, they have to learn Torah to know their own halachas. How are you going to know halachas of what you need to know? It's a lot of halachas. If the woman learns Torah what she needs to know, she can be a big Talmud Chacham. You need to know halachas of Muktzah, halachas Shabbat, halachas Yom Tov. It's all nagea to them. Kashrus and halachas with the nagea to them. So the learning of that's not mitzad chiyuv Talmud Torah. The learning over there, that's because just how else you're going to know what to do? So you have to learn, study the halachas. So that's how they learn over there. By the time of Yirmiyah Novi, the learning was just to know what to do. But it was not for the sake of learning itself. And that of Shachelo Birchu B'Torah Tchila. The Torah was not learning on its own merit. It was just learning in order to come to Maaseh B'Poyel. So if the Torah would be that the Torah has importance of learning it on its own merit, the learning Torah is a big mitzvah. Yeah, we're not saying we should not learn Chaz v'Sholom al manas lasos. That's the basic. Even of limud lishma, it's limud al manas lasos. That's basic. But the learning itself has its own its own chashivus to learn for the sake of learning. You connect Hashem when you learn. You learn Torah Hashem, and that was the destruction, because if the learning was not for the sake of learning, lo birchu b'Torah tchila, for the sake of Torah itself, it was just in order to come to kiyum mitzvahs, and that's okay. That's like I said, that's the from that angle comes of Yisrael Salanter, but the Kosker Rebbe comes from exactly the opposite angle. He says, in other words, in the word it's more meduyek. Lo birchu b'Torah tchila, meaning the Torah was not a beginning to come to the end. It was not, usually, like I said, you start, you're thinking about it, you talk about it, and you come to practice. By them, the Torah was not just a beginning in order to come to practice, because they didn't practice. It was just Adra, but they enjoyed the learning itself for the learning. They didn't care if you learn halacha, and he saw, I'm not living by this halacha. He said, I don't care, I'm still enjoying the learning. I don't do what it says over there. It's fine. So it said, the Torah was not a beginning to come lamaise, and that was a destruction. If you're not learning the Torah to learn how to behave, how to conduct yourself, you're just learning it. It's like by the goy, lahavdil, he has his chokhmah, enjoys, you have your chokhmah, you enjoy. It just was something you like by the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's Shashuim Shel Melech, the learning Torah before B'das Olam, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it was his toy, he was Mishtah, he was having good time with learning. So my was just... I enjoy learning, but it didn't bring to any halacha l'maisa. That's Shalom Birchu b'Torah tchila. Torah was not at the beginning to the end, to kiyum. Anyway, they're both coming from different angles. There's the importance of learning for the sake of learning for the sake of learning. There's the importance of learning to be mekayim mitzvahs b'poel. Both important. I'll tell you. So the Rabbi Yankel, the Rosh Hashiva, he makes a little pshara over here. Explain by the Torah says by Ben Sarah Ramoira. There's machlokes in the Gemara if such a thing could have taken place bichlal. According to Chachamim, it's never lahoya v'lo nivra. Saying Be'eser Moira was because there's so many conditions over there that they cannot be met. There's Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira says it was, and I was by his kever, he says, but there's again it's a machlokes, but the way we take it according to Chachamim, Ben Soyer Moira, it never was such a thing bepoyel. So the Gemara asks why it's written this halachas if it's never going to take place. The Gemara says drosh v'kabel tzchar. Drosh, learn for the learning and you're going to get reward. So what's the pshat? So that's what he brings with the Eretz of Salanter. There's the learning on its own, even if it's not going to become any fruition to this learning. The learning itself, it says, okay, that's what we're looking for this pasha. However, he adds like this. That's what Yankov Naiman said. He says, what was the idea of this whole Ben Sora Moira? You take him out to the do the Beis Din, the do Barabim, and people see what is happening to him, and they see how they do stoning him, and all the people see such a thing, they get devastated. They see, listen, what happened because he was drinking wine, was doing all kind of shady stuff, eating meat, not listening to his parents, and it gives them one picture is worth 1,000 words. It would give them such a shake up that they be careful, not behave, the end should not be like him. So he says, it's exactly the effect that the Torah telling us, the effect of what would you see with your eyes, what happened to Ben Sora Moira, we learn Torah with the same effect. By learning Torah, he says, even though it's never going to happen, Ben Sora Moira, the halacha is it's going to affect you, the limud Torah HaKadosh is going to have such an effect on you, like you're seeing him stoning over there. So that's the union of limud Torah. So according to this other Rabbi, the learning is not just something theoretical. No, even when it's not, even it looks like theoretical, it has a great effect on a person's midas, on a person's conduct. Anyway, so lefi zeh, we see another thing over here. The Torah, there's another small answer, I call it, for the whole idea of what we get Ben Sora drosh v'kabel schar. What's that drosh v'kabel schar? If you see what we're learning from Ben Sora Moira, what the conditions were there, you learn a lot of halachas of chinuch. You learn a lot of chinuch. It says over there, and then the shomea b'koilenu, right? So when they're not the same coil, the parents, they're not on the same page. Yeah, he gets one message from the father, he gets a different message from the mother, that he cannot be Ben Sora Moira. B'koilenu, they have to be the same coil, meaning the same, to be on the same page. Because if they're not on the same page, you cannot blame him. Why you can't blame him? Why you Ben Sora Moira? The problem started with the parents. So you cannot. Something many other halachas, when you see all the details, if it was any reason to say it was not his fault that we're not stoning you, so they're teaching us as parents a lot of halachas, how to mechanech the children, how to be the same on the same page. We have to have the same authority. We have to have. Then when you did everything good and so happened to be, so that's what the Torah says, it's never going to happen. If you're going to do the right thing, according to the halachas, when you learn from Ben Sora Moira, give him the right chinuch, it will never happen. So according to this, it's not so why we're doing it, because if it wouldn't be written, we'll not learn all the details of Ben Sora Moira. But after learning it, it's according to this, it's a prevention. There is a medicine, after you're sick, you get a medicine to get better. But there is a medicine, it's a prevention. This Ben Sora Moira, one of the questions he asked, there is so many things we can learn. You can live 500 years, you're never going to finish learning what we need to learn. So why we need to learn something never happened? Yeah, because after learning this, you could prevent this from happening, because you're taking the right measures, what kind of chinuch to give to the children.